Welcome to Game Changer. I'm Maryam Zia. In today's program, we will be talking about the dynamic and ever-evolving strategic ties between Pakistan and China. In today's program, we will be talking about the ongoing visit of Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Ishaq Dar, to China to attend and, of course, to co-chair the 5th Pakistan-China Foreign Ministers Strategic Dialogue. Of course, this is a 4-day visit in which both countries will be taking a look into different areas of cooperation between both the nations, and also taking into account how to upgrade the CPEC as well. In today's program, we will be talking about all the dimensions of strategic ties between Pakistan and China and how this relationship and partnership has evolved over the years and what is the future of these ties. Also in the program, we will be talking about the importance, the significance of SCO's Shanghai Cooperation Organization, as Pakistan has been a member of this important organization since 2017, and what lies ahead and how both countries can cooperate at such multilateral fora. To discuss this and more, we are joined in the studios by former Ambassador Nasir Ali Khan. Welcome to the program. We're also joined by President Belt and Road Initiative for Sustainable Development, Mr. Qaisar Nawab. Welcome to the program. And we're joined online by former Ambassador Ali Sarwar Naqvi. Welcome to the program. Ambassador Nasir, let me start with you. When we talk about this ongoing visit of Ishaq Dar to China, how do you see the significance of this visit, especially in these changing geopolitical dynamics?
First of all, it's the very first visit of the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Ishaq Dar. Mainly the discussion is going to be on the 5th Pakistan-China Foreign Ministers Strategic Dialogue. That's an ongoing thing. Now, as far as that is concerned, from a strategic point of view, we have very strong military ties. We have military training systems and institutions. We have joint military exercises. We have joint production of military equipment. And so these are, from that point of view, very important. Apart from that, from a strategic angle, you also have the issue of Afghanistan, which is getting increasingly important. Last year, we had a trilateral dialogue with Afghanistan, and this is something which is both important to the Chinese as well as to us. So apart from that, there will be discussions on upgrading and discussing CPEC, and perhaps the forthcoming visit of our Prime Minister, Mr. Shehbaz Sharif.
Of course, next month. Of course,
so
he's expected to visit.
These are the expectations from this meeting.
Right. And Mr. Qaisar, what do you make of this important visit at this point in time? And also, what will be the key areas of discussion when we talk about Pakistan-China strategic ties, as well as Pakistan's role in SCO?
Thank you for having me once again in this important show, and of course this important discussion as well. His Excellency explained that this is the first ever visit of the Foreign Minister and of course the Deputy Prime Minister of Pakistan to one of our very close friend, China, always a strategic friend. And this is not only the first high level visit on foreign level. Just recently our Minister for Planning and Development, Professor Hassan Iqbal, is already paid a visit to China, and some more visits have been done as well. So something is happening pre-visits to this visit as well. And I think this is more important, as Excellency explained, that this will discuss how the strategic alliance that can make more that can be more, you can say, powerful to bring the stability in the region, particularly while discussing the stability in Afghanistan, which is of course in the larger interest of China and the whole region, and also the SCO. So I think the upgradation of the CPEC phase 2, that will be the main discussion as well, because now there will be more discussion on the industrialization and how the SCGs to further enhance, and also the visit of the Prime Minister, which is expecting in the first week of June. will be discussed and finalized, and these things.
Right,
will
and
be
of course, this is laying ground for the upcoming visit of Prime Minister. Earlier, we know that Mr. S.N. Iqbal also visited to enhance cooperation, specifically when we talk about economic ties and upgradation of CPEC. But Ambassador Naqvi, what do you make of this visit of Ishaq Dar Saab to China? And also keeping in mind the current geopolitical landscape, how do you see the cooperation specifically in economic and trade relations between both the countries?
Yes, thank you for the question and for having me on the program. You had mentioned, by the way, before I address your question, that there is a long historical background to Pakistan-China relations. So I'll talk about that for a couple of sentences, and then also I'll talk a little bit about SCO, and then I'll talk about the current geopolitical landscape and situation. The China-Pakistan relationship goes back to the recognition of China in 1949 by Pakistan, and this is nearly more than 70 years of very close bilateral relations of all governments and all leadership changes in China. So this is perhaps an example in international relations of the most abiding relationship that exists between two countries. Pakistan and China have gone through many phases, and we were the ones who exposed or brought out China to the world, actually, when we helped establish Chinese-Pakistani, US-China relations through Pakistani intercession, and many other things like that. This visit, I think, is a continuation of this entire process of close bilateral relations and close bilateral consultations. The joint commission that the Foreign Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister will be heading from the Pakistani side will go over all the aspects of our relationship. And I think it was mentioned that we have a relationship in a wide range of subjects. SCO, China was initially, was one of the moving forces in getting Pakistan into the SCO. Pakistan entered SCO at a time when it was internationally isolated, comparatively speaking, and China helped Pakistan acquire the membership and be inducted into the SCO, and thus it established its own belief in Pakistan's important role in this region. And because of that, the China, Pakistan, and the Afghanistan trilateral forum is, I think, an important factor in also working on the Afghanistan situation. So I think the broad picture is extremely positive, and we must look forward for good results from this visit.
Right, Ambassador Naqvi, you have very eloquently, of course, reminded us of the importance and history of the all-weather partnership between Pakistan and China. But Ambassador Saab, when we talk about Pakistan's strategic ties with China, has there been any transformation between these strategic relations over the years? And if so, what have been the factors that have influenced this change?
You see, in the 50s, we had the Americans that had a strategic or military alliance with Pakistan. It was in their interest, and they encouraged us to join organizations like CETO and CENTO.
Yes.
And in 1949, when the Communist Party of China took over mainland China, they had very few friends. So we have been very, very old friends of China. And they really appreciate and admire us for that. They value this relationship. They want to nurture this relationship. When slowly a transactional relationship with the United States was in the doldrums, And when we had sanctions, because primarily they suspected that we were perhaps developing a nuclear deterrent, there were many amendments and many sanctions against Pakistan. That is when China stepped up and started to supply us with military hardware and military training and all kinds of things. Ever since then, now we have evolved to a stage where the majority of our important equipment is all Chinese. The majority of training for maintenance comes from China. And one of the most important projects is of the JF-10 and JF-17. So here we are in a situation where we can develop indigenously an aircraft which can stand its ground with the best these days. In fact, several countries are thinking about purchasing these aircraft from us. So as far as the military alliance goes, historically, this is how it's been working. And China, even diplomatically, when we talk about the Security Council, which from a strategic point of view is very important, I have myself experienced that whenever we had a situation or a problem in the Security Council, we would normally go and engage with all the P5 members or the permanent members of the Security Council who have a veto. And I noticed that each one of the P5, barring China, would have some kind of quid pro quo or some complaint against Pakistan. China was the only country whose delegation would come to us, sit across the table from us, and essentially give us a blank check. They would say, okay, what do you want? And we are going to do this without any conditions. So China has been, as they say often, an all-weather friend, somebody that we can rely on. Having said that, a friendship with Pakistan from a strategic point of view is also extremely important to China. As you know, the function of the CPEC is not just an economic one.
Right.
Because you see, most of the industry in China is in the western part of China.
Right.
You have to cross all across China to come through Xinjiang into Pakistan and on to towards Gwadar. As far as the cost of land transport is concerned, it's more than double what it costs to bring things by sea. But there is a very important conflict or potential conflict that can occur in the Straits of Malacca, which are very narrow sea lanes, so important to China that 85% of all their oil supplies goes through there, and maybe 90% of their exports go through there.
Right.
So in a situation where there is a conflict, or there is a war, or there is an embargo of any sort, China will have an alternative route to ship some of its goods here.
Right.
Eventually, I believe there will also be a pipeline which will take oil there, because you see, China is energy starved. It has made a major pipeline from Kazakhstan, and it's made a gas pipeline all the way across from Turkmenistan. So these are issues where our interests converge.
Of course, and that is an important aspect of the relationship, that with the passage of time, although the relationship has evolved, but it has deepened at the same time.
Indeed.
Other than the military cooperation, of course, both countries are now launching missions into space as well. We'll be talking about that, but let's talk about the upgradation of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. In this visit, what are your expectations regarding a CPEC in what of the sectors, specifically when we talk about energy cooperation, both countries are going to be working towards?
So I think this is very important to discuss now, that what can be expected from the CPEC phase 2. While currently looking at the problems of my part of the world, Pakistan, we have this youth bulge. Every time we discuss about the youth. Now it's a very, it's a liability, and at the same time it's the biggest strength of the country as well. And CPEC phase 2 is one of the golden opportunity for the current government and of course the current leadership that can be fully utilized to to upgrade the young people, their skills, and how they can involve them to create an opportunity for these young people to fully utilize and to further through the Chinese this cooperation, how can we more export our young people to different part of the world. But the question is, how can we create this skilled jobs and this skilled young people and skilled worker as well. So our expectation being a young people is that how they will create a greener job for us. One of the comments which we usually heard from different part of the community is that carbon emission and the construction and the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. But I think we need to further propagate the ideas that have come up and these commitments that have come up from the Chinese leadership, which is that they are promoting the Belt and Road into the greener Belt and Road Initiative, and the same as the CPEC as well, that they will create opportunity to how they can less emit the carbon emission and how can they create
of course, climate friendly projects,
in the long run, and green jobs for the young people as well.
Right. So Ambassador Naqvi, when we talk about Pakistan's collaboration with China, can you tell us a bit about Pakistan's efforts of diversifying the energy mix, especially when we talk about the recent visit of SN Iqbal Saab to China, in which there was a lot of discussion going around about the hydropower plants and other such efforts. So do you think we would be witnessing some impact of such efforts in the near future?
Yes, that's a very good question and a very important point that needs to be highlighted. You see, China has been helping us in many fields, particularly in energy, in acquisition and utilization of different energy sources. One of those sources is nuclear energy. And China has been helping us in the peaceful uses of nuclear energy by assisting us in establishing our nuclear power plants in Chashma and also in Karachi. So China has been of crucial importance to Pakistan because Pakistan has been placed under unfair sanctions in this regard, and China is the only country which provides us access to peaceful uses. Now, it is important to note that peaceful uses of nuclear energy is not under sanctions. However, the behavior of most countries which belong to the nuclear suppliers group is that they do not provide Pakistan access to state-of-the-art technology and all the elements required for producing nuclear energy. So I remember China collaboration and Pakistani and Chinese collaboration is so strong that I remember when I was in Vienna as ambassador to the International Atomic Energy Agency, the Chinese ambassador invited me for a one-to-one dinner the night that they joined the nuclear suppliers group. And he said that we will abide by our agreement with Pakistan of 1986, despite the fact that this was 2004, because we have established or instituted the grandfather clause. That grandfather clause is still effective and is providing us the assistance for establishing 2 nuclear power plants in Karachi of over 1,000 megawatts each. Now, also in wind energy and in solar energy, we are importing a lot of solar panels from China. So, in all these fields of development, China has been a true friend who has stood by us in our time of need and has provided us all kinds of help. And now the CPEC, of course, which has already been discussed, is another area where China is providing us vital assistance.
Right. And Ambassador Saab, when we talk about Chinese investment in different sectors, of course, Pakistan is making efforts to attract Chinese investment, specifically when we talk about distribution sectors. How significant is the role of private sector in this regard? And what kind of efforts are we looking towards?
Okay, look, as far as this engagement, the economic engagement and CPEC is concerned, and your question is mainly about energy, okay? First of all, energy, that the shortage of installed power that we had has been overcome. Today we have about 44,000 megawatts of energy installed, but unfortunately we don't have the capacity to receive this power.
So distribution
Because
sector is important.
distribution is extremely important,
Right.
okay? China's projects in CPEC, many of them have been in the power sector. What we need to do is to ask them, first of all, what is our priority? Obviously, nobody is coming here to give us charity, but what are our priorities? Our priorities are that we need to switch from power projects that require imported fuel. We need the Chinese to help us not only in expanding, in repairing, in actually modernizing our transmission, because Ambassador Naqvi mentioned solar and wind. You see, solar is available to you mostly if the sun is shining from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. After that, you have to go to some other source. Wind is an erratic power supply.
Of course, but nuclear is very cheap.
It is.
So we have to move towards
There you
innovative
go,
sources.
because we will have an indigenous source and we will not have to spend billions of dollars to import it. But it has its own safety risks
Concerns,
involved.
yeah.
So what I would say to the Chinese, and I should say they're doing us a big favor by developing several large hydropower projects. So you see, if they develop hydropower projects, we can give them a decent return on their equity and yet have power for about 9 cents or so.
Right.
And after 25 years, these projects will be transferred to the people, the state of Pakistan, and it can go on for another 60 years or so. We have a project in Dargai which has been around for more than 70 years, the same turbine. I have seen a project in Norway from 1898. So what I'm trying to say is, normally you will be hard pressed to find investors to come and invest in our hydropower. The reason being that the gestation period for these projects is 7 to 10 years. There is uncertainty in the cost also. There is interest that accrues during construction. So these are not easy, viable projects to do. So I'm gratified, I'm grateful to the Chinese that they're developing Kohala, they've helped us with Neelam Jhelum, Karot, Sukhi Kinari, all these projects. These are projects where relatively less tariff will be paid. There will be no foreign exchange for fuel. And at the end of the day, instead of piling up a debt for my kids and my grandkids, they will be left with a major asset that they can use for another generation. So these are the things we need to talk about.
Right.
But I think I've said too much. I'll wait for my turn.
No. So when we talk about, of course, these projects, none of this is possible without a secure environment. So what is the importance of common security concerns of both countries, specifically when we talk about this specific visit, and regarding terrorism in the country? What kind of measures do you think both countries would be talking about or looking towards?
So this is one of the, you can say one of the main part of the whole visit as well. Chinese side is much concerned about their worker safety, and of course we are also equal concerned about the guests of any country even working here in Pakistan, particularly our Chinese friends who are contributing to our economy. And I think it's very important to keep this in account as well, because we are now talking about attracting investors from the rest part of the world as well. So one of the major concern for them is the safety.
So what do you make of the measures that are being taken to secure these construction sites or the infrastructure development projects, specifically when we talk about China-Pakistan Economic Corridor?
I have been visited these nearby projects, particularly in Shangla and some of theirs, and I have seen that Pakistan Army is contributing very well, and they are securing the whole process.
Right, right. And Ambassador Naqvi, in your opinion, how can Pakistan capitalize on its membership of the SCO to address these common security threats?
Well, one of the objectives of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, is to combat common uh, issues or menaces like terrorism, human smuggling, drug production and drug smuggling, for creating a safe and secure environment in the region. So we have a ready-made prescription available under the SCO for addressing this problem. I think in regard to terrorism, there are two parts. One is the international cooperation or regional cooperation under the SCO, and the other is also to win over the people at large in combating terrorism. I mean, I find government failing in uh, mobilizing public opinion to uh, uh, challenge the terrorists, to stop them from doing something. You know, I'll give you an example on a very small scale. In New York City, crime was rampant and it was very bad in the 80s and 90s. But then they created a local system of vigilantes in every street. Now, what happened? The vigilantes would immediately catch those people who were involved in terrorism, bringing guns or uh, uh, carrying out crimes in the night, and they would stop them and they would report it to the police. So, in this way, crime in New York was almost reduced to a very low level because of this action. Here we have to mobilize the population regarding terrorism. Now,
Right.
the international cooperation under the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is very important because many of these terrorists are moving from one area to another, particularly Afghanistan to Pakistan and all that. We have to deal with that, and for that we can use the rubric of the SCO. Broadly speaking, China is also very helpful in supporting Pakistan's case in regard to the expansion of the Security Council. The Security Council is, there are certain countries which want to get into the Security Council without any proper reforms, which are Brazil, Russia, then Brazil, China, Brazil, Japan, India, and and Germany. So these countries, called the Group of Four, all want to get into the Security Council. Pakistan opposes it because just an expansion like that will not help the broader uh, issue of effectiveness of Security Council. So Pakistan is being supported by China in blocking any short-term measure like this to expand the Security Council and thus block India getting into the Security Council, because
Right.
in this way there will be no equitable system uh, established even after changes. So all
Right.
these things are important, and China is very helpful to Pakistan in these matters. So I think we should look towards Chinese cooperation
Right.
and collaboration in all these fields.
Right. Thank you very much, Ambassador Sarwar Naqvi, for joining us in today's program and for your valuable input. Ambassador Sab, when we talk about these energy projects, what kind of efforts, in your opinion, are needed by Pakistan to attract more investments from China, specifically in energy?
Well, if you look at the interests of Pakistan, the biggest problem we have is to try to create energy from indigenous sources. To give you an example, the coal in Thar, according to a lot of experts, is enough to satisfy the needs of Pakistan for the next 300 years or so. But there is a lot of resistance among especially the Western nations to stop us from developing that resource.
Right.
earlier there were all kinds of rumors that, you know, it's lignite, it has a high water content, we need to bring fresh water from miles away to process this. First of all, India has been using this coal for many, many years. It's the same Tethyan belt that goes into India also. Secondly, the project that you have seen completed between Engro and the Sindh Coal Development Board is now supplying power to the Pakistani grid. So
right, but at the same time, coal is not very environment friendly when we talk about countries like Pakistan who have climate vulnerabilities. What kind of energy or other infrastructure projects do we need at this point in time?
Yeah, but I would like to stay on coal because the financial value of that coal is more than all the oil in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
So I would like to state that please look at the figures of the United States. 16.4% of all its energy needs come from coal. And that is more than the total energy that we are using. Look at India, 40% of its energy is coming from coal. Now when you talk about the climate, Pakistan is amongst the top least polluters in the world and yet in the top most vulnerable countries. So either you allow us to develop a clean coal alternative, and if you say no, we are going to cap this, we are going to shut down this resource, then we need to be compensated in some way.
Right.
Okay? Now having said that, there is a tremendous potential in Pakistan that still exists in run-of-the-river projects, hydel projects. Now, run-of-the-river projects do not require huge reservoirs. They are simply an area where you have two rivers coming and meeting at a point, where if you go upstream at a certain point, you'll see that one river is maybe 200 meters higher than the other. It comes and meets over here.
Right.
So we cut across the mountain with a tunnel or a channel and take it to the lower river, drop the water and produce electricity. So you do not waste the water, you do not prevent others from using the water.
Right.
And more than that, there's no big scandal about huge lakes and displacement of people and compensation and all kinds of heartache. So those projects alone run into thousands of megawatts. We need to develop these projects.
And but
that
those,
is a priority.
Right, those kind of projects need, of course, financing and collaboration from countries like China and other
Yes.
emitters as well. But talking about, of course, elaborating on that point a bit further, what kind of collaboration are we looking towards, Mr. Qaisar, specifically in sustainable development, in green initiatives and creating environmental friendly projects that you earlier alluded to as well?
So I think I will also join the Excellency's comment as well, that we need to understand the politics behind this sustainable development, this climate change and all these initiatives. And at the end of the day, we also need to curtain raising those people as well, I mean, who are benefiting from these all kind of terminologies that are introduced to the global south, I mean, particularly to the countries that are poor, particularly to the countries that are contributing very less in making the vulnerable, I mean, the whole planet or the whole world, while they are affecting much. So I think this is important to understand, and this is important to speak on a right platform loudly. And then there is an importance of how you can do some strategies to further strengthen your commands and to further strengthen your case to present to the global community and to be compensated. For example, this climate finance fund and this other compensation green fund, and Pakistan probably again will get nothing out of it. And still we will be like, it's not about to cry every time. It's all about to show resistance as well. So if somebody is having these objections on our currently resources available, while they have been using it since, I mean, many years and still are using in some capacities,
Right.
then we need to ask them about how they can be compensating us. And for
Right,
this,
but-
I
but-
think
but
a
at the
right
same time-
collaboration and
Right.
a right coordination is important. And this right collaboration and coordination is the key to success of getting rid out of these problems. And I think it's important for the diplomatic community of the country to use their diplomatic skills and to do negotiate for the benefit of the country with
Right,
the
of course,
Western
of course.
powers. Yeah.
That is very important when we talk about climate vulnerabilities. Some of these projects might be posing for us in future. So it is important to plan ahead and talk towards green initiatives. Of course, Pakistan in COP as well promised to reduce its carbon footprints by 50%, which is very ambitious target when we talk about. So how does CPEC play a part in this all, and how do you see China's role in collaborating with such initiatives?
So when we see that losses happen due to the climate change, we need to see what are the other aspects that are affecting that. For example,
But I would want you to stick towards the CPEC aspect of it.
So I'm coming to that. And I think CPEC is giving in a great opportunity for this urban planning as well. Why? Because this connectivity is also very important, and this linkages between these major cities of the smaller cities and of course the villages is important. And I think this is the way how the CPEC can further contribute in other aspects of uplifting the socio-economic of the common man.
Right, right. That is very important. But moving towards the geopolitical developments, Ambassador Saab, in your opinion, how important is this strategic dialogue that is going to be? Of course, we will be discussing outcomes maybe next week. But keeping in mind the current geopolitical developments, what kind of efforts Pakistan should be pushing towards, specifically in regards to China, as well as its membership in the SCU?
You see, India is also a member of the
Of course.
SCU. But when you look at new organizations such as Quad, when you look at the so-called Indo-Pacific pivot, there is a collaboration which is strategic in nature, and it is primarily to prevent the spread of Chinese influence. I have to point out that China goes to other countries and nowhere does it try to militarily interfere with that country. It goes with open arms, it goes with assistance, it goes with providing communications and sustainable projects, unlike some other countries or some other superpowers who have been using their military option continuously for the last 50, 60 years. So as far as China is concerned, now when you have Quad and something like Quad over there, to prevent the Indian hegemony in the Indian Ocean, it is very important for us to collaborate with China. You may have heard many times that people are fearful that China will have a naval base in Gwadar.
Right,
I'm
right.
not saying-
a lot of Western propaganda we have been
No,
listening
but
to.
I'm not saying we ought to give anybody any kind of military base. But what I would like to see to prevent the hegemony of the Indians in the Indian Ocean, and especially with all the other partners that they are gathering around them, I would like to see the Chinese strengthen our military and perhaps have another base besides Ormada, a naval base closer to the mouth of the Persian Gulf. From a strategic point of view, that is extremely important because, as I mentioned, the Malacca Straits, similarly the Straits of Hormuz, as far as energy supplies are concerned, for many, many years to come, will be extremely important.
Right.
So, from that point of view. But I would like to say a few words on investments
Yeah, sure,
with
sure.
regard
just
to
the
CPEC.
concluding remarks.
With
please,
regard
please
to
go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically, I want to say that not all foreign direct investment is good investment. Okay, we need to prioritize these investments. Because I have little time, all I need to say is we must invite investment that does not kill local industry.
Right.
And we must have a condition where it is not purely going to produce goods and services to sell to Pakistanis and take the profits abroad. We must have a condition that some of this product will also be exported to mitigate the loss of foreign exchange,
Right,
some
very
going
important.
out, some coming in.
Very important, very important. And Mr. Qaisar, lastly, what are your expectations of this important visit?
So just a very small sentence on adding to the investment part. I think the indigenous research and development and researchers, and particularly the business community, are very fearful from this foreign investor as well. Why? Because when you speak about, let's take an example of the electric vehicle. So when you speak about somebody who are doing this research in development, or I'm doing this research for many years to develop something indigenously in this electric vehicle, and they can't compete this international community who are coming to invest in the same business. So they just stop their research at that point, and at one stage they don't get any you can say support and help, not much support and help from the institutions. But at the other side, when they start their research on their own, then such investors can kill their ideas, and they can kill their innovation, and that can lead them to leave the country and go to some other place, which happened. And we have seen such a tremendous Pakistanis contributing in the developed world while they can't contribute in the same country. That's one of the reasons as well. So and I think in expectation is that we need to be having much closer to each other. China is also dependent on Pakistan at the same time. I have seen many times, and I have heard this as well, that we need this help, we need this help, we need this support. And I think we now need to think about what we are giving in return as well. We are an independent country, we are a nation, and we do have a history, and I think we need to step by smaller things. We don't need to look all the time for the support and help, and I think this is the only way that are keeping us dependent, and are keeping us away from doing something by our own. And this is what I think we need to think about. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Qaisar Nawab, for joining us in today's program. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador Nasir Ali Khan, for joining us in today's program. Of course, as we conclude today's discussion, we know about the deep-rooted ties between and all-weather strategic relation between Pakistan and China. And of course, sky's the limit when we talk about this relationship between both the countries, as both countries are committed to the regional prosperity. That's all from Game Changer tonight. Take care. Allah Hafiz.